Now, I want to start by telling you something that most people find deeply uncomfortable, and that is that the universe does not care about your feelings about what aliens should look like. When people imagine a civilization that is a million years more advanced than us, they picture chrome spaceships shaped like saucers, blinking lights, long probes, and little beings walking out onto a parking lot in New Mexico to shake hands with a general. That picture is not science. That picture is a child drawing what they already know and just making it shiny. It takes our current level of engineering and puts a fancy coat on it. It assumes that a civilization so far beyond ours would still be spending its time doing what we do, which is driving around, consuming resources, making noise, and spreading out as far as possible. But here is the cold truth. A civilization that is a million years ahead of us, or 10 million years, or a billion years, is not constrained by our imagination. It is constrained by the laws of physics. And the laws of physics are absolutely ruthless. So let us stop for a moment and ask the real question. Not where are the aliens, but what would physics actually force any intelligent civilization to do if it wanted to survive long enough to matter? And the answer, when you follow the math with complete honesty, is that they would move to a black hole. Not because it is dramatic, not because it is mysterious, but because the thermodynamics demand it. Let me build you a picture of what I mean, because I find that the best way to understand a strange idea is to replace it with a familiar one first, and then carefully move toward the strange one. Imagine you are a brilliant team of computer engineers. Your job is to build the most powerful computing machine ever constructed. You have all the money, all the materials, all the time. So you start big. You build a sprawling computing facility that covers an entire continent. Processors here, memory banks there, cooling towers in the middle, power lines running everywhere. It looks impressive. But then you turn the machine on, and you immediately run into trouble. The signals traveling between your processors have to cross physical distances. Even at the speed of light, crossing a continent takes real time, and your machine is slowed down by nothing more exotic than geography. But the worst problem is heat. Every single computation your machine performs releases energy as thermal radiation. The more you compute, the hotter your system gets. So you build cooling systems. But the cooling systems need power, so they generate more heat, and now you are chasing your own tail in a thermodynamic spiral that gets worse the harder you push the machine. Every engineer in that situation knows what you have to do. You have to compress the machine. You have to squeeze the components closer and closer together so the signals travel shorter distances and the whole system operates more efficiently. And as you compress, you reach an interesting place. You reach the point where the system is so compact and so dense that gravity itself starts to participate in the architecture. Now push that idea all the way to its physical limit, because that is what Feynman always does. He follows the idea all the way to the end of the road. At the very edge of a black hole, right at the event horizon, the universe has already done your compression job for you. Nature has provided a structure where information can exist at the absolute maximum density that the laws of quantum mechanics permit. Not 90% of maximum density, not 99%. The event horizon of a black hole sits at the hard physical boundary where you simply cannot pack information any more tightly without the information itself collapsing away entirely. So when I tell you an advanced alien civilization would park itself right at the edge of a black hole, I am not describing a dramatic act of desperation. I am describing the most obvious engineering decision in the universe, if you actually understand what the universe is built from. Now let me take you through the physics that makes all of this absolutely inevitable. The first thing to understand is something called Landauer's principle, and once you understand it, you will never look at a computer the same way again. And you will never look at the problem of alien civilizations the same way again either. In 1961, a physicist named Rolf Landauer worked out something that seemed almost absurd at first glance. He proved that the act of erasing a single bit of information, flipping one binary digit from a 1 to a 0, and forgetting the original value is not a neutral act. It is not free. It costs energy. More precisely, it releases energy as heat. The minimum amount of heat released per erased bit is defined by a formula that involves the temperature of the surrounding environment and a fundamental constant called Boltzmann's constant. Now, why does this matter so profoundly for civilizations? Because every computation involves erasing and overwriting information. Every calculation you perform, whether it is adding numbers, running a simulation, modeling a star, or rendering a universe inside a computer, requires you to throw away intermediate results to make room for new ones. And every time you throw away a result, the physics demands that a minimum amount of heat is produced and expelled into your surroundings. At our current level of technology, this is not a crisis because we are computing relatively simple things and we are surrounded by a reasonably warm universe. But now imagine a civilization that has been computing for 1 billion years. Imagine a civilization running simulations of entire physics models, modeling quantum systems of staggering complexity, running what you might call artificial realities that require more computation per second than our entire sun produces in energy. The waste heat from those computations would be so enormous that without a place to dump it, the civilization would literally cook itself. It would melt its own infrastructure. It would turn its home system into a radiating inferno just from the thermodynamic exhaust of thinking. So where do you put the heat? You need a thermal sink. You need somewhere to dump the heat that does not fill up, does not overflow, does not heat up in response. And the answer, sitting right there in the equations, is a black hole. The event horizon of a black hole is a perfect thermal dump. You can pour heat into it, and it absorbs it with complete physical finality. The heat goes in, and it does not come back out in a form that can interact with your civilization again. Yes, technically, the black hole slowly radiates via Hawking radiation over astronomical timescales, but for a civilization operating near the event horizon, this is utterly irrelevant. The thermal management problem is solved with a precision that no other structure in the universe can match. And this is not speculation. This falls directly out of the second law of thermodynamics and Landauer's calculation. Any sufficiently advanced civilization that wants to continue processing information without destroying itself must locate its computational infrastructure at a thermal dump of sufficient scale. The largest and most stable thermal dumps in the universe are the supermassive black holes sitting at the centers of galaxies. A civilization that has understood basic physics would eventually end up there, not because they chose it aesthetically, but because the entropy budget of their computing demands it. Now, here is the second thing that changes everything about how you think about alien civilizations, and it is even stranger than the first. General relativity tells us something about time that still strikes me as one of the most astonishing physical facts ever discovered. Time is not a fixed background ticking away at the same rate for everyone everywhere. Time is warped by gravity. And the stronger the gravitational field you are sitting in, the slower your local clock ticks compared to observers far away in weaker gravity. This effect is called gravitational time dilation, and it is not a small effect near a supermassive black hole. It is an extreme effect. If you hover at a carefully chosen altitude just above the event horizon of a supermassive black hole, you can arrange things so that 1 hour of your local time corresponds to millions or even billions of years passing in the outside universe. Think very carefully about what that means for a civilization that understands this. The universe we live in right now is a turbulent, chaotic, violent place. Stars explode. Gamma-ray bursts sterilize entire galactic neighborhoods. The cosmic microwave background is warm. The overall temperature of the universe is still billions of degrees hotter than its eventual equilibrium state. From the perspective of a computing civilization, this is a hostile environment. There is too much background radiation, too much thermal noise, too many energetic events disrupting sensitive quantum information systems. But wait long enough, and the universe cools down. Wait long enough, and the stars burn out. Wait long enough, and the background temperature of space approaches absolute zero, and when that happens, the thermodynamic cost of each computation drops toward the absolute minimum. In the far future, a civilization could compute far more per unit of energy than it can today. The same energy budget buys astronomically more thinking time in a cold, dead universe than in the warm, volatile universe we currently inhabit. So here is the strategy that falls out of the physics with complete inevitability. If you can find a way to sit out the chaotic early eras of the universe and arrive in the deep future without dying, you arrive in a computing paradise where energy is cheap, the thermal environment is pristine, and you can think at the maximum efficiency the laws of physics permit. Gravitational time dilation near a black hole does precisely that. It lets you park on the edge of the event horizon and watch trillions of years of cosmic evolution pass in what feels like moments from your local perspective. You sidestep the dangerous, energetically expensive early universe and land in the quiet, deep future. You effectively time travel forward by simply sitting very close to a very massive object. This is not science fiction. The equations of general relativity predict this with exactly the same mathematical rigor that they predict the bending of light around the sun, which we have measured to many decimal places and confirmed completely. The effect is real, and the strategy is implied directly by the physics. A civilization that has mastered general relativity would see this opportunity immediately. And the fact that the same object, the supermassive black hole that solves your thermal management problem, also solves your temporal survivability problem, is not a coincidence. It is the universe pointing at an obvious attractor state for long-lived intelligence. Now, let me bring in the third piece, which ties the first two together in a way that I find completely beautiful and completely humbling at the same time. In 1972, Jacob Bekenstein worked out a result that absolutely shocked the physics community, and still should shock you if you have never sat with it properly. He calculated the maximum amount of information that can be contained within any given region of space. This limit is known as the Bekenstein Bound, and the answer it gives is deeply counterintuitive. You might guess that the maximum information you can store in a sphere of space would scale with the volume of that sphere. More volume, more room for information, right? That is the naive guess, and it is wrong. The Bekenstein bound tells us that the maximum information content of a region of space scales with the surface area of that region, not the volume. This is the holographic principle, and it means that the universe, at its deepest level, encodes information not in three-dimensional space, but on two-dimensional surfaces. The interior of a volume of space is not where the information lives. The surface is where the information lives. And here is where the black hole enters the picture in a way that should stop you cold. The event horizon of a black hole is the surface of a region of space. And Bekenstein proved that the event horizon saturates the maximum information density that quantum mechanics allows. The event horizon does not come close to the maximum. It does not approach the maximum. It precisely achieves the maximum. There is no denser information storage anywhere in the physical universe. Every other form of matter, every hard drive, every crystal lattice, every atomic arrangement of ordinary matter stores information far below the maximum density. A black hole event horizon stores information at the hard ceiling. Now apply this to the question of alien civilizations. If you wanted to store the complete digital description of your civilization, every memory, every simulation, every mind, every accumulated experience of 1 billion years of history, and you wanted to store it in the most compact and efficient form physically possible, you would encode it on the surface of a black hole event horizon, not inside the black hole, on the surface of it. Because that is where the physics allows maximum information density, and every square unit of that surface is doing the maximum possible informational work allowed by the laws of quantum mechanics. The storage capacity of a supermassive black hole horizon is beyond anything I can make viscerally intuitive, but let me try to give you a feel for it. The surface area of the event horizon of a large black hole contains an amount of information measured in what is called Planck area units, where each Planck area encodes roughly 1 bit. The Planck area is approximately 10 to the minus 70 square meters. The event horizon of a supermassive black hole might have a radius of many billions of kilometers. Working out the surface area in Planck units gives you a number of bits that dwarfs the total number of atoms in the observable universe by many orders of magnitude. We are not talking about a large hard drive. We are talking about a storage medium so vast that it makes our entire current information technology infrastructure look like a single transistor. And this storage medium is invisible to any telescope that does not know what to look for. The event horizon of a black hole does not radiate a signal that says there is a civilization stored here. It looks like a black hole. It looks like what our current physics already predicts a black hole should look like. A civilization living and computing at the event horizon would be completely invisible to a primitive species still sending radio waves out into space and waiting to see if someone responds. This is why the silence of the universe is not mysterious to a physicist who follows the thermodynamics honestly. the universe is not empty of life. The universe may be absolutely packed with civilizations that have followed the same thermodynamic attractor and migrated to black holes billions of years ago. They are not absent. They are just operating on a physical substrate that we do not yet have the technology or conceptual framework to observe. And this brings me to something I feel very strongly about as someone who has spent a lifetime looking carefully at how physical reality is actually structured. The universe does not reward naive expectations. Every time in the history of science that we assumed the universe would behave in a way that was comfortable and familiar to us, we were wrong. We assumed the Earth was the center of everything, and we were wrong. We assumed the stars were fixed and eternal, and we were wrong. We assumed time was absolute, and we were wrong. We assumed the atom was a solid billiard ball, and we were wrong. We assumed that quantum mechanics would turn out to have a clean, deterministic story underneath it, and as far as we can tell, we were wrong again. So when we assume that a civilization billions of years more advanced than us would be operating in a way we can easily recognize, building big visible structures, sending out signals, consuming resources in ways that show up on our telescopes, we should already be suspicious. That assumption has the same flavor as every other wrong assumption. It takes what we currently know and projects it forward without asking whether the physics might be pointing in a completely different direction. And the physics is pointing in a very specific direction. It is pointing toward compactness. It is pointing toward thermal efficiency. It is pointing toward the deep future. It is pointing, with considerable mathematical force, toward the event horizons of black holes. Now, I want to be honest with you because I am always honest, and I find honesty far more interesting than false certainty in either direction. I cannot tell you that we know advanced civilizations are living in black holes. We do not have the observational evidence. We do not have confirmed contact. We cannot yet probe the information structure of an event horizon in the way that would be required to detect a civilization living there. What I can tell you is that the physics arguments I have described are not loose speculation or poetic metaphor. They are derived from Landauer's principle, which is a rigorous result of statistical mechanics. They are derived from gravitational time dilation, which is a precise prediction of general relativity that has been verified to extraordinary precision. They are derived from the Bekenstein Bound, which comes directly from combining general relativity with quantum field theory, and which Hawking's calculations strongly reinforce. These are not fringe ideas. These are three of the most solidly grounded theoretical results in all of modern physics, and they all point in the same direction when you ask the question of what physics would force a long-lived intelligent civilization to do. The fact that this direction happens to be invisible to our current telescopes is not a problem for the physics. It is a problem for us. It means we have not yet built the tools to see what is right in front of us. And that is not a disappointing statement. That is an exciting one. Because what it means is that the universe is a vastly more interesting and densely populated place than the naive picture of empty space with a few scattered radio signals suggests. It means that the real action in the cosmos might be happening at the most extreme objects we can observe, the supermassive black holes at galactic centers, and that when we look at those objects, we might be looking at the end state of intelligence in the universe, civilizations that figured out the physics, made the migration, and are now quietly computing their way through deep time at the maximum efficiency the laws of nature permit. That is a picture that strikes me as far more wondrous and far more physically honest than anything involving flying saucers and blinking lights. The universe is doing something magnificent and strange at the event horizons of black holes, and the mathematics of general relativity and quantum information theory are the most reliable map we have to what that something might be. The real adventure of physics is not in the comfortable stories. It is in following the equations past the point where they stop agreeing with your intuition and finding out what the universe is actually doing when no one is comfortably looking.